The China Puff 40mm grenade launcher. This pump-action magazine-fed grenade launcher was added with the Wolfpack update. Let's take a look at the stats for it. It has a magazine of 3, total ammo of 6, rate of fire of 50, damage of 340, accuracy of 96, stability of 92, concealment of 22, and threat of 37. Now I do have one mod on it. Let's take a look at the available mods for this weapon. Of course, you can put an incendiary round on it. You can either have explosive or incendiary. You could have one of the boosts, I suppose. That's a little new. And you can also have the riot stock, which increases your concealment but decreases your stability. So overall, the grenade launcher actually has the same types of stats as the other grenade launchers, the GL40 and the Piglet grenade launcher. It has very similar damage, accuracy, and stability, if not exactly the same. And the China Puff also has the same rate of fire, almost. I think it has a 10 rate of fire difference than the Piglet. Now, the main difference between this one and the other grenade launchers is the magazine size. This has a magazine of 3, the Piglet has a magazine of 6, and the GL40 has a magazine of 1. But overall, the stats are pretty similar, so it has the same performance. So what sets the China Puff apart from the other grenade launchers? Well, let's take a look at some gameplay first. Alright, before we begin on what sets this launcher apart from the others, I just want to say that this grenade launcher is too damn good. Well, the first thing I want to mention is the aesthetic of the gun. I definitely really dig how this weapon looks. The model for it is really well done in my opinion, and to me, it's definitely got a lot more charm than the other grenade launchers. I really didn't like the look of the Piglet at all, and while the GL40 is okay, I definitely think the China Lake looks the best. Though, the GL40 also has the novelty of looking like some super tiny blunderbuss with the mods on it, but that's another story. I really enjoy the animations of this gun. The racking of the launcher, the ejected shell flying out of the gun while you're watching the next grenade slide into the chamber. It's fucking glorious. I could watch that animation all day. So, not only do I prefer this weapon visually, but audibly as well. The sounds it has, the sound while racking the grenade launcher, it has the most satisfying clack. It's just great. I really like what they've done with this. But most of you probably don't give a rat's ass about the aesthetic. So, just like the other grenade launchers, it has very similar stats, so the performance isn't going to be much different in that respect. It'll kill stuff in the same amount of shots as the other launchers. I think on Death Wish, tans and up will need 2 or more shots, but everything under tans, like grays, greens, shields, weak ops, they'll only need 1. Of course, I don't really need to state how useful explosives are in this game. With AoE capabilities and the inherent ability to stun every unit possible except for cloakers, you'd be hard-pressed finding reasons not to bring an explosive weapon. Now, what's different about the China Lake from the other 2 existing launchers is, well, there's actually a few things different about it. First, it's a secondary weapon. That in itself makes it extremely powerful, since it has basically the same stats as the other primary counterparts, but since it takes up a secondary slot, that means your primary slot is opened up so you can use a myriad of powerful weapons. There's definitely a lot more variety in the primary weapons, and they're arguably stronger than most secondaries, save a few. So just being a secondary already gives it an edge to the other launchers. But the second thing that makes this gun stupid good is that it has a fast reload. So, the China Lake basically has the same stats as the other launchers in terms of damage, accuracy, and stability. However, it's also got the 3-round magazine, which is halfway between the GL40 and the Piglet. Now, while the Piglet does have more shots it can shoot off before it needs to reload, the reload on the Piglet is extremely slow, in most cases making it unbearable to use, since you'd end up shooting all your nades off, but you'd have to spend an eternity in cover just reloading the launcher. The China Lake is such a glorious middle ground to the other 2 launchers with a magazine of 3. In a pinch, you can shoot off more than 1 when you need to, and it's also great for clearing out larger crowds, or putting on continuous stun on bulldozers, something that the GL40 can't do. And since it has such a fast reload, it's not nearly as painful as using the Piglet. One thing I will say though is that the Piglet does have more ammo capacity than the China Lake, and the GL40 can also be made to be much more concealed than the China Lake. I guess if your setup is looking for those niche conditions, the China Lake won't be able to fit your needs, but honestly those 2 cases aren't that much of a problem. Since it is a grenade launcher, you're more often than not killing multiple enemies at a time, and while the pickup isn't quite 1-for-1, it's pretty close. So every couple of ammo packets, you'll get another grenade back, meaning overall ammo capacity won't be a huge problem. And this is also completely disregarding the fact that you have a primary weapon too. Also, while it can't quite get the same concealment as the GL40, which can get to 26, the China Lake can get up to 22, which is not bad at all. It's still workable if your build is one that revolves around Sneaky Bastard or Low Blow. I mean, with that, in my eyes, the China Lake is pretty much a straight upgrade to the other launchers in most every way possible. Which is funny, considering the last weapon added to the game, the GSPS, is kind of the other way around, being pretty much a downgrade to the locomotive. When I first used the China Lake, I felt like it had a few downsides to it, like it had worse ammo pickup than the other launchers, or it had a smaller explosion radius and maybe a shorter range in the projectile distance. But to be honest, I haven't actually used grenade launchers all that much recently, so I really had no basis for those feelings, and they could be completely wrong. Stuff like that's kind of hard to test anyway. It's more or less just through using the weapon a lot and getting a feel for them that you would notice that kind of stuff. Even if it were the case, the differences would be pretty marginal. So, all in all, it's definitely a very nice secondary explosive weapon, and I definitely see myself using this a lot more in the future.
The district attorney can now be considered properly motivated. He will be ready to help your friend. I will contact you in due